Hey everybody, it is Nathan Selove, and today I want to discuss a topic that I have been requested to discuss before, and over the last few days I've been working on creating my courses for the next semester, so I thought there's no better time to talk about this than now. And that is tips on how to be a better public speaker if you are on the autism spectrum, although honestly a lot of these will probably help you even if you aren't. So those of you that are regular viewers of the channel probably already know that I am an adjunct professor of communication studies, and so I teach people how to public speak. And the irony of an autistic communication professor is not lost on me, but I have developed a lot of understanding and skills and tips over the time that I have been teaching. So, here are 3 tips to make you a better public speaker if you are autistic, or honestly, even if you're not. So tip number 1, create the illusion of eye contact. So a lot of autistics have trouble with eye contact. And one of the things about public speaking is that a lot of people who are in your audience will expect you to have eye contact with them. And they might view you as a less trustworthy person if you don't have eye contact with them. Now, that's a bunch of societal BS, and I'm not going to pretend that it's not. However, when you are public speaking, you do want to be audience-centric. So you do at least want to give your audience the illusion of eye contact. So if you are somebody who is on the spectrum and because of that you are uncomfortable with looking at people in the eye, then there are ways around it. Depending on how far away you might be standing, just look at people's foreheads instead. Or if you're standing really close, just look at their nose or right between their eyes, and that might make it a little bit less uncomfortable. Also, another thing about the illusion of eye contact is don't just look at one person. So don't just be staring at one person's forehead the whole time. You want to scan the room, especially if there are lots of people in your audience. So maybe spend a little bit of time talking to the person right in front of you, and then slowly glance over to the person over here, and then slowly glance over to the person over here, and then just look at their foreheads, and nobody will know that you're not looking at them in the eye, as long as you exude confidence with that. Tip number 2, wiggle your toes. I'm serious about this one. So, those of you that are very experienced with being on the spectrum, mostly because you've been on the spectrum your whole life, you know that one thing that autistics like to do is to stem. So, stem behaviors often do translate into bodily movements that sometimes audience members can find a little bit distracting. Now, it doesn't mean that you want to keep yourself from stemming, but there are ways of stemming that don't necessarily throw off your audience. And one of those that I've found is to just wiggle your toes. Especially if you're wearing shoes, nobody in your audience will know that urge to move your hands and flail all over the place because you're nervous. You're just getting it out in your toes. I'm wiggling my toes right now and no one can see it. Of course, that's because of the camera angle, but if you're wearing shoes, no one's going to see it, no one's going to notice, and it's a good way to help get some of those nerves out. My final tip, and this is one that should definitely apply to anybody who's wanting to become a better public speaker, and that is think positive thoughts. Now, I know that sounds cliche, but let me explain what I mean by that. When I say positive thoughts, I don't mean think about how great you are. No. What I'm talking about is use statements that use positive language, meaning you're not using negative language. So if in your mind you are saying, don't mess up, most of the time what your mind is going to hear is mess up, mess up. If you're thinking, don't forget your line, don't forget the next part of the speech, your mind is going to be thinking, forget the next part of the speech. And especially if you're on the autism spectrum, that can be really anxiety-inducing because autistic people are very good at getting inside their own heads and overthinking things. So whenever you're in that situation, just take a second and think in the positive. So instead of don't mess up, think communicate, or think nail it, or think get it. Something like that. And that should help to alleviate anxiety. And those are my 3 tips for public speaking in this video. Let me know if you want to see more stuff like this. If this gets positive review, if this is received positively, then I might make more videos in which I ascribe communication theory from an autistic perspective. But again, let me know if you are interested in seeing something like that. That's today's video. Thank you all for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like, a share, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Check out some of my other stuff. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, support me on Patreon. And you will see me in the next one.